Business Performance USA hosts these weekly webinars, and today we are so fortunate to be able to have host Kenna, your presenter. She is what we call her as a savvy socialista. I don't know if you came to our webinar in February, but she gave us the essentials of social media marketing, some things that we all need to know about. It was an excellent webinar, and if you didn't get a chance to see that, go ahead and note this. You can join at Business Performance USA to become a member and look at these webinars and go back and see Kenna in Social Media Essentials. And today she'll be talking with us about Pinterest. Kenna worked in the corporate world for many years, but has been an entrepreneur. She's a serial entrepreneur. She does a variety of things out of her location, Kansas City. She has the Kansas City Leadership Institute where she trains leaders in business. And as she was doing that, she discovered that social media was the thing that everyone seemed to want to know about. And she had a natural understanding. She was just a natural for social media. So she began to consult in the social media world under her company, Social Centric Media. And we're so happy to welcome you, Kenna. We will spend time talking with Kenna, and then towards the end, we'll tell you a little bit more about Business Performance USA. But we do want to make this hour worth your time. So note on your chat feature, I'll be monitoring that chat feature and make sure that if I see questions from you, we'll be sure to pass those along to Kenna. So with that, Kenna, why don't you take it away for us?
Happy to do so. I love talking about social media, and an hour seems so short, but there's a lot of information that you can pack in a very little time that can help you and your business be more successful. We are going to be talking about Pinterest specifically, but this is something that I show in almost every presentation because I think it's important for people to understand the true numbers of social media and the impact that it has. Facebook has 1.15 billion users and more than 42 million pages. Those pages are your business pages, your nonprofit pages. And obviously, it is always thought that Facebook is something that you have to be on if you're a business. And that's true. Listen to our Facebook webinar in a couple of months, and I'll tell you what Facebook is doing to limit some of your exposure on Facebook. And it's very important as a business, you know that. YouTube has been trending down, but still is very powerful. Google, I had to laugh at 350 million active users, and most of them are using it for animated GIFs. So, not kind of the smart way you would have assumed Google would have been used, but they're using it for fun. Skype has 300 million monthly connected users. Twitter, which is one of my favorites, has 550 million users, and it was the fastest growing in 2013, and it was also the fastest growing in the 40 plus age group. So very important, depending on what your business model looks like and where you're focused, that's something, Twitter is something you should be thinking about. LinkedIn has 238 million users, so still important for your business. And if you take a look at Instagram, which what the teens are using the most, that and Snapchat, that has just skyrocketed in usage because of that. WordPress is very important. Pinterest has 70 million users. It was less than half that just a year ago, and has also been on a very steep incline up. And we'll talk about why in just a few minutes. Foursquare, as you can see, is growing as well, and so is Reddit. Now, before you think about any social media, it's important to look at the strategy behind it. One of the things is that you need to still focus on the people and not the technology. People get so entwined on what technology they should be using and lose sight that what I always say, social media is a numbers, networking, relationship game, if you will. The numbers are critical, but you are still, it's like networking in cyberspace, and you are still trying to build relationships. Engagement is very important. So you focus on the conversations, not the campaigns. You really want to build long-term relationships. with your, just as you do with your customers, you want to do that with your followers on social media as well, because they are either your customers or will be shortly. Social media is and isn't free. There's a time investment. And if you don't have somebody like a social media company doing the business for you, it is your time. So it still isn't free and something for you to think about. And there could be a financial investment as far as having somebody like me do it. But that's something for a business you have to decide what works best for you. I had a friend of mine who had spent $30,000 in just with a PR firm, and that didn't include all the stuff they did for her campaigns, print ads. And after a year, she came back from the $30,000 retainer plus the money she spent, and she hadn't even really gotten back, she said, a tenth of what her investment was. She moved to social media. Obviously, it was a much cheaper platform for her. Not those kind of retainers, not those kind of costs. And in actually 6 months, she saw more return on investment than she had with a big PR firm here in Kansas City. Now, when you take a look at social media, you have to understand what your strategy is going to be. It's not just hit and miss. You need to really sit down and think about what you're going to use and why you're going to use it. And then it's easier for you to figure out what the correct outlets, since there are so many of them, is for your business. Take a look at your channels. Is it just another marketing channel to you, or is it something you're going to use? Uh, Jeff and I were just talking a little bit before we even started this webinar, and he said social media is just a part of a strategy, and that's very true. It's an important part, but you still have to think about what your long-term plan is. Is it customer service? Southwest Airlines does a phenomenal job of monitoring all the social media, especially Twitter, to see if anybody's unhappy with their customer service. And if they are, they very quickly try to get an email from that person to see how they can talk through what actually happened so they can be more effective in customer delivery, but also can try to turn an unhappy customer back into a happy customer. So are you going to use social media for customer service as well? And of course, revenues. Will the goal strictly be to generate revenues from your social media campaign and your whole marketing? Are there other things that you are trying to do? Nonprofits sometimes have whole different strategies on reach out versus businesses who are really looking at revenues. So it's important to step back and plan your entire marketing strategy. Now, when we take a look, in order to dominate the competition, and of course that's what you want to do if you're a business, it's important to be on at least 3 to 4 social media channels. And Facebook and LinkedIn have tended to be the one that people will go to. Facebook, it's just been around for a long time, so they do it. LinkedIn, they think they have to be there, and they don't adequately use it. I think I saw a statistic where it says that only 10% or less of the people effectively use LinkedIn as a way to generate leads and business. So people use them, they're not using them effectively, and so you don't see any return on the amount of time you spend for it. So Twitter is huge. I love Twitter. I've gotten clients off of Twitter. I've made $20,000 deals through Twitter. So I like it, but it's a hard channel sometimes for a lot of people to understand, but one that can be very effective to generate reach. I have a gentleman right now who's a chiropractor, and between he and I, it's an effective use of his time on tweets. He's got 1,600 true followers, but his reach this month was close to 1 million accounts that saw his name. So that's a pretty substantial reach. YouTube can be a great SEO strategy for you, and yet a lot of people don't use it. Again, it's something that you can get your word out by creating your own channel for your business and putting videos up. and you can put them on a variety of sources from your Facebook, YouTube, and people can see you across various social media platforms. Pinterest. And the one we're going to talk about today and that I love, very effective, and most people totally forget about this when they think about using a social media platform. They think it's only for do-it-yourselfers and they think it's only for women. And I'm going to show you how those myths are not true. And I know that, yeah, there we go. Implementation and optimization. Oh, went too far. Implementation and optimization. It's important to implement your methods to drive customers to your social media content. You want to do that so you can convert them into paying clients. You need to monitor your return on investment. Look at your sales, look at your referrals, look at your web traffic that's not even listed here. There are a lot of things that indicate that people are looking at you. I almost think of it like the cauldron bubbling. Social media can really help that cauldron bubble and get people to the point where they come and buy your services. And of course, you can optimize. You can look at different analytical tools or tools we provide to see what works and what doesn't. I mean, it can be as simple as we put a spa campaign together through the different social media outlets, and the result was how many people walked in and bought that service. And that's a great way, simple and easy, doesn't require a lot of strain in looking at analytical tools, but you can see very quickly what people respond to and what they don't. So Pinterest. Why Pinterest? Why are people talking about it? Well, Pinterest, I kind of call it a vision board on steroids. Um, it is a virtual pin board. You can organize, you can share videos, you can share photos, you can browse other people's pin boards, you can repin things, you can look at vertical subjects, you can dream. Everything exists there. Travel, hopes, interests, futures, history, humor, and it's about life, all of it. And it's laid out in a great, great format. And as we all know, the brain loves pictures. We see things much more quickly. And I think that's why Pinterest has exploded, is that we can visually look very quickly at things and determine if it makes us feel good or not, and then we look further at it. Sometimes we don't want to read a lot of words for a variety of reasons. Time doesn't interest us, but Pinterest, because it's visual, will always bring a reaction and something you see that you like. Now, Pinterest stats. Business Pinterest accounts are now at 500,000 and they're growing daily. Monthly Pinterest page views are 2.5 billion. That's a lot of page views. Now, the one that really got me was the daily articles now pinned are up to 5 million articles being pinned. Now, one of the things, if you have a blog, I have to tell you, put an interesting picture with every single solitary blog post. We had, and I will show you later the actual pin boards of Kansas City Health and Wellness Magazine. They had a podiatrist who was working on different foot ailments, and he would write these great articles, and he would put the worst pictures with it. And we changed up the pictures to where instead of it's somebody walking on flat feet or whatever it was, we put a picture of a throbbing foot, and it started getting pinned because people reacted, wow, my feet hurt, I have bunion issues, or I have this, and they saw a throbbing foot picture and then took a look at the article and repinned it or at least read it. So if you have a blog, make sure you have great pictures that are going to resonate with the people that you're writing to. Pinterest growth in web traffic is at 67%. That's a lot of web traffic. And something that people don't realize when they think about Pinterest is how it drives traffic to your website. And the growth in international traffic has been 125%. So if you are a person who actually are looking for accounts outside of just the United States, then Pinterest is a great way to do that. The average time spent on Pinterest is 98 minutes a month. It doesn't seem like a lot, but remember, brain can look at pictures quickly, and it does. And I can pin something and I can go back and look at my board. Even if I don't have time to digest that at that second, I can pin it and then go back and read it when I do have the time to do it. Now, this one is amazing, and you'll see this a couple more times because it even blew me away. The amount per order from Pinterest, which is now ranging between $140 to $180, tops both Google and Amazon for orders. That's impressive. So if you've got something, if you've got a brand um, or a business that has things that you can buy, put them on Pinterest. Sorority Corner, which is a business that you'll also see pin boards from them, she sells a book and on sorority recruitment. She sells directly from Pinterest that book. So, great way to get people exposure in a whole different view to the products that you're selling. Now, part of the reason those orders are so high is that the percentage of Pinterest users with income over 75,000 is 18%. Now, I will tell you that was higher a year ago than the 18%, but a lot more teen people have been brought on and a lot more people are using it. So that's still the highest income of any of the social media platforms. So if you, again, have products that you're trying to sell, you know you may be hitting people with a much higher income on Pinterest than any other platform. The average additional value of each pin for your brand is 78 cents. So I don't know how they calculate it. I'm trying to find that out. But right now, every time somebody repins something of your brand, it's worth 78 cents to your brand. That's a pretty high number. And also, Cynthia, will you stop me if there are any questions?
Yes, we have some that are
Okay.
not Pinterest related, so we'll ask those at the end of the call.
Okay. I'll check back in a couple times because if they do, I want to make sure we hit them. Now, why Pinterest? Well, traffic. Any business that relies on driving a high volume of traffic to your website should join Pinterest. According to ComScore, Pinterest buyers spend more money, more often, and on more items than users from any of the other top 5 social media sites. Pretty impressive. eBiz. Pinterest receives an estimated 85.5 million unique monthly visitors. And companies are starting to really open up about how much business they're getting from Pinterest. Shareaholic shared that Pinterest was driving more referral traffic than Google, YouTube, and LinkedIn combined. Links. If you're using the pin it button on your pages, every single one of your pins will include a backlink to the original source. So I think now if you start like looking at blog posts or you go to a lot of websites, you'll see the little buttons that say share and pin it. Well, anytime somebody pins something they see from your website, you get a backlink from that pin to the original source. So very important, you'll get people coming back to your website, and that's another reason why it drives traffic. Now, it's not an SEO strategy in and of itself. So don't look at it from that standpoint, but look at it as the links will drive traffic to your website, your landing pages in only one click. And you can be very specific. They will go back to that product. So they're not going to go back to your home page where they have to start looking through your website to try to find something. They are going to go back directly to the thing they want. So it's more likely when that happens, they're not only going to buy that, but then they'll start looking around to see other things that they may want to purchase. leads. Again, it's great. It's possible to get people engaged early in the buying cycle because of what they see visually. So leads are very important, and you can generate more of those through this visual social media platform than some of the others. Now, I know a lot of marketers hate hearing this, but today consumers have all the power. It's not marketers, believe me, and it's not salespeople. It is truly the consumer, because we get to, as consumers, choose when we want to interact with anybody and how we're going to do it and on what terms. And Pinterest is one of the networks that enables this freedom to actually be used to your advantage. So its network users navigate based on their own interests and what they see, but it does give you a little bit more power than you may have in some of the other social media platforms. Now, inbound methodology for marketers. What we want is we want to turn strangers into promoters. And that's what you can do you can do that with all the social media platforms, but I believe Pinterest, again, gives you a lot more power in that regard, because obviously strangers can come from your blogs, your keywords, your social media, and then you can take them step by step. And sometimes with the pictures that you put up and then going back to your website and the way they repin what they buy or repin what they want to buy, they become promoters. And sometimes they'll become promoters for you without actually having even made a purchase. My daughter bought a J. Crew bracelet, the one she loved. She pinned it and she put on there, "Finally got it." That pin probably got repinned 100 times. Now look at what J. Crew got in marketing from my daughter taking a picture of the bracelet and saying she finally got it. So pretty powerful how that happens. So one last why. This one's from Shopify, and we talked about it before because obviously I'm blown away by it. That people spend more money. The orders are bigger than even on Amazon, and I think that's the one that really got me. Google, I expected that somewhat, but Amazon was the one that didn't. So Pinterest offers the unique opportunity to target a market that is difficult to reach, because you can actually put products on it. Really can't do that on LinkedIn. You really can't do that on Twitter. You can do a twit pick, and you can also put products on your Facebook page, but not to the extent that you can really do that with Pinterest. So Pinterest promotes a lifestyle. It's an amazing tool for creating mood boards on what makes your brand tick. You can make your whole Pinterest page with an aura about what you are and what you love to do. And you're not going to just feature your products, because people won't usually repin your products first. They'll focus on what inspires you. So it can be great quotes or great books or places you want to visit or new cars or whatever that lifestyle is. People will see those pictures first and find your products sometimes just that way, because you've created an amazing boards about what inspires you. As a city-based business, you could post pictures of your city. Huge. I have a gentleman who was involved in the Olathe Chamber here outside Kansas City, and he does a board that's all the businesses in Olathe that he's used or met with, and so the coffee shops and everything. So he has a whole board that is dedicated, and people love it. One, they find, let's say the Olathe board, they'll take a look at all the pins, and they found coffee shops they didn't know existed in Olathe before. So he's gotten a lot of feedback from both businesses and people who like his board just on his city. Marketers never like to be passive. The web is really a big treasure, and Pinterest is kind of the diamond in it. It really is. It's the way I like to um, visually try to describe it. People share what they love. Yeah, fashion, recipes, places, their dreams. The dream thing is huge. There are girls, women that start in high school and they start pinning their wedding board, believe it or not, on what they want their wedding to look like, and they're just pulling in information. I had an elderly gentleman who was a remodeler, mainly kitchens, and I met with him, and he was just like high school graduate, wouldn't do LinkedIn, Twitter, not going to happen. Facebook, he thought was for teens, and he just didn't want any part of social media whatsoever. So I understood that, and I said, "What about Pinterest?" And he goes, "It's for women." And I kind of laughed, and I said, "Who do you think is making decisions about a kitchen remodel?" And he kind of looked at me and smiled and said, "Okay, got it, but not doing it." So I kept trying to hit him up. I said, "Just give me an hour. Give me 1 hour to train somebody on Pinterest for your business." So after a long time, he actually allowed me 2 hours, and I was able to go in and train his wife and person who worked for him, receptionist. And we did. And so then they said, "Okay, when they finished it, what do you think? Look at the boards." And they were great. And I said, "Just make sure that anything new, products or whatever, just pin it." Well, about a year later, he called me and said a woman walked in with an iPad with her Pinterest board of stuff she'd been pinning of his business for quite some time. And she finally was going to redo her kitchen. And she walked in and she said, "Here are the things I want." And he called and I said, "Oh, that's great. I'm so excited." And he goes, "Aren't you going to say I told you so?" And of course I didn't. I was very nice. But I'm sad. There were health reasons and he's sold his business. But that's the power of Pinterest. And it may not be something that happens overnight. That's true of all social media. It is not a get rich quick scheme in any sense. It takes time to build following and people pinning and all that. So don't think you're going to start seeing results walking in your door, in 30 or 60 or 90 days. But they will. So dreams are one of the ingredients of Pinterest. So when you think about that, that's kind of huge, especially if you have products that benefit that. And even if you don't think you have products that do, I'll show you how you can still get people pinning your stuff. So the website ideally saw a 446% increase in web traffic, and who wouldn't love that? And sales from those increased fivefold. So it does not use Pinterest just for business. They see it as a growing resource for better understanding their users. So they can see what people pin. So if people are pinning a lot of bedding or a lot of bedroom stuff, they know that maybe in the future they need to put more bedding and bedroom stuff up. So you really can start to understand what is driving your customers in a whole different way than you can any other social media platform and sometimes any other marketing platform. If you're starting from nothing, then traffic can only go up. But I can't imagine anybody here wouldn't admit that that's pretty impressive numbers for web traffic. Now, user-generated content's always complicated and has variable quality, as we know. And if you don't know what user-generated content is, it's any form of content that is created by consumers or end users and publicly available to others. Now, Burberry's done a great job of this with their Art of the Trench. I think that website still exists, and people wearing Burberry trenches are all over it. Rent the Runway, for those that are familiar with that and probably have seen it. There are these great dresses that you can rent that are from designers and Runway, but you can send them your picture of you in that dress. And so people can see real people wearing the dresses, and sometimes it'll make you want to rent that one or maybe rent another one. Um, Doritos did a great job this year with user generated content in the Super Bowl when they actually allowed people to create their own commercials for Doritos. So you can do this, you can do your research, you can use user generated content, and you can start a contest. And we're going to talk a little bit about contests because I think they're brilliant depending on what your product is and how you implement it. So Land's End had a contest, and 200 people created boards that were directly related to Land's End and their products. My favorite, though, of all time that I've seen to date has been Tivana. And I do like tea, so of course I found this one. But they did a summer tea party, pin it to win it. And they gave $500 away, and 4 runners up will receive a $25 gift card. So to enter, first you had to follow Tivana on Pinterest. Huge. Then you had to create a board and title it Tivana Summer Tea Party and repin the rules that they had. But here's where it was even more brilliant, in my humble opinion. You had to have at least one pin in each of these categories. Tea. So what happened? You looked at all the tea. You had to put in a tea maker. So it forced you to look at tea makers. Infuser teacups, sugar, honey, servingware, hot water appliance. So you had to have 6 pins at least in one of those categories. That's huge. You had basically a person looking at almost every product on your website. You don't think they sold through the roof? Even, I mean, their tea's pretty expensive, great, but expensive. And they sold a bunch of it. And I'm sure part of the reason that Starbucks wanted to buy it was based on some of these sales results. So huge. Contests can be huge, but you have to have followers and you have to think it through and you have to figure out what you want to do, and the price has to be worth it. But this just was amazing to me at the response that they got. Now, biscuits by Lamb Chop. I didn't know that dogs needed gluten-free biscuits, but they do. And this group pins things for sensitive dogs. And 1/5 of their revenue source and 50% of new visitors came from Pinterest. So here's a very niche market, and yet they were now drawing 1/5 of their new business coming from Pinterest. So that's what it can do for even something that is not a mainstay product. Now, are there any questions, Cynthia, today? Because I'm going to walk over a few boards.
Yeah, there's one question, and it has to do with it seems like Pinterest is really more product friendly than service friendly. What would you say to that to people that are more service oriented? How can they use Pinterest?
And I will show you a little bit of that in these boards. And again, it depends on what the service is. I mean, if you're a training company, my gosh, you should be putting pictures of, now, granted, you're going to be putting these on your website, but you should be putting pictures of all your training events. And especially anytime it looks fun. If you put blog posts up, you should be pinning those with great pictures. Remember that even though you're a service industry, and I've worked with a few, and you can create an aura still around what you do. And this one is Lifted Logic, and he was a web developer, so that's service in a sense. What we did is, and this is what I kind of do with any business, is I make the top row all about the business for sure. So in his case, these are things from his website that really don't have to do with anything else, but they're cool pictures. And we repin those occasionally um, to the top so it's never stagnant. So some of these pins that even though we've pinned them to the boards, we sometimes will go back, and if they generated a lot of pins at one time, we'll repin it ourselves. So a new generation of people out there looking at that time will see the same pin. So we took every one of his web design clients and we made a board. So every website he created, I put a pin board together for that. So not only did everybody could see everything he created from a web design standpoint, they could also then nicely go see that customer's work or business too if they wanted to do so. And then we took his branding and his design clients, and we did logo design clients and photography clients and videos. So those are things that he had done. Videos were not their specialty, so that's why it's on the second um, tier or second row of Pinterest boards. But now we started pinning things that were important to him. Organic gardening, he's huge in that. He's really funny, so smiling and laughing. His wife wanted images for the home. So people didn't find him for web design. They found him, and that's the important stuff, Kansas City metro places, graphic design, cars, images for the house, organic gardening. They pinned those things first, and a lot of times found him. And I know he's gotten at least, this has been a while because at the time, last time I talked to him, it's probably been a year, he had 5 to 6 clients that he got off Pinterest to develop websites for because they were able to see it from here versus just his website. Um, Sorority Corner was another one. Now, in the far left um, corner, you can see the book. And where the 10 pins is, it sometimes can even say 1995 or whatever the book sells for. So you can put the link to your product to sell it directly back to your website. Coaches are doing this. So they'll put a cool coaching picture up from their website and they'll have their programs lined out, the people they put on Pinterest, and now you can go back and buy a coaching session or get a free consultation or whatever. That's one, drives traffic to your website, two, and potentially drives business, and that's nothing more than a service industry, and coaches are doing that. For her board, obviously sorority recruitment, I mean, one of the pictures there is a picture of her holding her book. The next picture is she was in USA Today. I mean, that was New York Times. So we actually took the article where she was mentioned in the New York Times and pinned that to her board. So another way, if you get any kind of exposure from anything such as newspapers or anything that's pinnable, then you pin it to your business website. I mean, you pin it to your business Pinterest account. So this gives an idea. I mean, party themes, again, a lot of people started pinning other things and then look at Sorority Corner and have bought books or bought her coaching services, because that's basically all she offers is coaching services and her book, and they buy them from Pinterest. Now, it's really funny. You can tell when rush or recruitment occurs because she's been able to tell in different colleges all of a sudden these sorority boards that she's created will start getting pinned, and she'll know that recruitment happened in some schools, and she'll go back and she can even look and now see when the University of Alabama had recruitment, because all of a sudden she's got a bunch of people pinning from the University of Alabama. Can she develop a relationship with somebody from University of Alabama that can also help her get more coaching clients? So even though hers is not a huge product based, she's still getting people because of the rest of the boards that she does. Now here's one that is totally visual in the sense of the product they put out. It's Kansas City Health and Wellness Magazine, and all it is is doctors, clinics, and articles, no product. So this one was interesting because, quite frankly, I knew that no one was going to repin a doctor probably, and nobody was going to repin a practice or a clinic, right? I mean, you just wouldn't. I mean, somebody did actually repin one of the vision doctors because eventually they wanted LASIK surgery. So we took and put the health articles then on the far right. And those are the things that we did a lot of experimentation with to see when they started getting pinned and what got pinned. And that's when we found out that more visual, fun pictures that still really carried the theme of the article across is when doctors started getting calls. So the foot one that I mentioned earlier. So when the foot's, you see a throbbing picture and now you go to the article, you now pick up the phone and call that doctor and say, okay, my foot hurts, I need to have an appointment. And so that's the way we found over the course of time what really worked on the health articles that actually forced a call from a consumer into the doctor. So then obviously healthy food, fitness ideas, those things work with the theme of health and wellness. So when people found her initially, it was not because of practices, doctors, and health articles. They found her because of healthy food and fitness. And Our Fabulous World is huge because there's so many glorious pictures of places to travel to. That's just a great board. Quotes, inspiring quotes, always gets repinned. So you find those things that you know just get repinned all the time, and you start there, and that's how people find the rest of your boards and the rest of your business. So, advice on getting started. Claim your brand, and you got to try it to learn it. And that's not a bad thing. The bad thing about Pinterest is I've had a lot of people do it and then they get addicted and they feel like they're spending too much time on it. So that's the worst I've heard on Pinterest. It's not a hard one to learn versus Twitter, even versus Facebook. So you can boost your brand image by sharing cool, relevant images, gain customer insight. You can see when people pin different things, you can see what gets repinned the most. And then you learn a lot about what your customers are looking for. You need to be active. You need to pin, you need to repin, you need to like things, you need to comment. The other great thing about Pinterest, it actually allows you the ability when you pin something to write a comment about it, which I think it's like 500 characters. So that's quite a lot. I wouldn't use that because sometimes people don't like to see all that. But if you want to explain a product very quickly or a service very quickly, um, limiting limiting bad beliefs or limiting beliefs, peak performance, some of those buzzwords you can put on a picture, and then of course the picture is going to take them back to your website. So you can still do that from a service perspective. Um, you promote a lifestyle, not just your brand. Obviously, on the health and wellness, we promoted healthy lifestyle. Sorority Corner promoted sorority, leadership, college stuff. So you can do lifestyles, not just your brand. You can reorder your boards all the time, which I kind of like. So if all of a sudden you think, oh my gosh, this is a great board for my business, you can reorder it and put it at the top, even though it's, your 15th board. Add the pin button to your web bar, and they'll tell you how to do that when you sign up for a Pinterest account. So that makes it easy to pin. So let's say you want to go to your website now and you've got great blog articles. Once that web bar, that pin's there, you can now go pin your articles, blog articles, to your blog board on Pinterest. And again, this is going really quickly, but Pinterest walks you through it pretty well. I mean, the first time I did it, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Pinterest was very new, and it was at a time where they still had to invite you to join. Nobody could just join. So I learned it and they didn't have much instructions at all then. So it is easy to use. There is pin etiquette. I'll find that on site. You don't want to pin stuff and not give credit back to the original site. They've really enhanced it so that doesn't happen anymore. So you just, of course, want to avoid porn, inappropriate pictures, those type things because you can't, or spam. You don't want to just spam people or spam your boards because that can get you in trouble too. You can promote products with pricing information. I think that's great. People know right then, 19.95 for the book, I'm going to buy it or I'm not. They can make a quick decision. Add a follow button to your site. Enable sharing on your Facebook timeline. So if you go to Sorority Corner Facebook page, she will have one of the apps will be Pinterest. So you can look at Pinterest. Now, it used to be, and I haven't done it recently, but you had to like the page before you could even look at the Pinterest thing on Facebook. So that was an option. So that kind of forced people to like your page as well. Obviously, you can create boards, RSS feeds of your boards, use keywords, keywords, keywords. You'll hear that in every social media presentation I do, including LinkedIn. Keywords are critical, valuable real estate, so use them. You can follow others. And, that's the thing about social media, especially in Twitter and Pinterest more so, and LinkedIn, actually. You have to go follow other people when you're starting in order to get your numbers up of people following all your boards. And that's true in Twitter and LinkedIn. You need to make those connections because I don't care how great your content is, if only 10 people are seeing it, that's not good. So it doesn't matter. So it's important for you to follow others and they'll follow you back. You can find out who's pinned your content. You can find out if it's men, if it's women, what their ages are, because you can go back and look at their pictures and you have an idea. Are other businesses pinning? So that might be a possible connection for you to make. And that's with so many businesses now online, you can share boards actually. So if you have a service industry, like a therapy group, um, you could potentially share a therapy board with someone who does coaching and vice versa because they can't do therapy. So at some point, some coaching people need therapy and some therapy people need coaching. So you could share boards and promote each other's business and work out an agreement in order to do that. You can find out who's pinned your content, find what content is pinned the most. You can pin videos. And watermarking your images would only be important for artists or any kind of, you don't want somebody copying that picture of yours. So if you do have great artwork that you're pinning because you're an artist, then I would watermark those. But again, it'll take them back to the site where they can buy or see your stuff. And April's going to be LinkedIn, but I think questions now?
Actually, this is kind of going back to the beginning a little bit. You listed
Okay.
WordPress at the beginning, and
All right.
you suggested that WordPress community is in effect a social media channel. Did we hear that right?
Yeah, it really well, it is, I'm sure that defined by the definition, it may not be, but believe me, it is a social media channel because the whole purpose of web, usually when WordPress started, it started as a blog and it was for you to get information out about your company to people who wanted to read it. So that's exactly what social media is. Now, WordPress has morphed into a whole web design platform and not just a blog, but blogging is still usually important. And so, yeah, I think of it as a social media channel.
Actually, I would agree with you there. And I noticed at the very beginning on one of your slides, you show blogging. So it is a way to get yourself and your ideas known. So the other question, we actually have a couple more Kenna. Regarding videos, is it best to post videos on one's website and drive traffic to their website, or is it better to drive traffic to YouTube?
Well, my strategy is always that you want to drive traffic back to your website. YouTube is a way to do that. Yes, you can drive traffic to YouTube and then hopefully they will go to your website. I think that podcast, and that's, you'll also hear I'm a big champion of videos and podcasting. You can take snippets of videos and put them in different places. You can take snippets of a podcast and put that in different places. I mean, you can put it on Facebook and you can put a video link on Twitter. Obviously, you can put video here, and it doesn't have to be the whole thing. You can even put 30 seconds, the beginning 30 seconds, and go, to hear the rest of the video, click here. I think
Okay.
that, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead and finish.
Well, I just think video podcasting is important. And, and obviously, I think podcasting is important, but because I have Craving Talk Radio, but I think it's important that people sometimes see your personality and who you are. And you can kind of hear that sometimes in a voice. And you can sometimes hear that or see it in a video, where social media, you you kind of get the person's personality and who they are by what they say and what they retweet and what they pin, but still podcasting and video gets people to see who you are. So I think, yeah, that's really important to build that relationship and drive that personality. And do people want to be with you based on what they hear or what they see?
Great insights, Kenna. I have a question back at Pinterest now.
Okay.
I know that it's important to have high activity. If you're wanting people to come to you on Facebook, you have to keep refreshing Facebook, your content on
Mhm.
Facebook. If you want people to see your blogs, you have to keep refreshing your content. So is that true? Is that kind of another thing that we need to think about on Pinterest, that you need to be refreshing your content to keep people coming back to your board?
Well, yes and no. uh, there, on the one that you saw, the health and wellness one, I don't ever touch those doctors once they've bought, a advertisement package with Kansas City Health and Wellness, and they're on there. Unless they quit buying from her, they're on there forever, and I never touch them again. Okay, so I don't refresh that content. Obviously, if you've got a blog, you're refreshing content, so you can always put that up there. If you add a new product, obviously you can put that on there, or a new service. I did iThirst, which is a nonprofit that also is digging wells in Africa, and we would take his statistics, and he had some great statistics, and I had him make those into JPEGs on his website, because I can't just pin words. So we took those, we made them into JPEGs, with some color. I was able now to pin those on to a board of his on iThirst. And every so often I would just repin the same statistics, because now he's got more followers, more people are seeing them. And so I kept that new, or at least just reusing, if you will. New content, if you're pinning a lifestyle or pinning things you love, such as places you want to travel to, and you're on Pinterest and you see a picture of the Grand Canyon, at sunset or something, and it's just glorious, or Hawaii sunset, and you repin that, that's new content for you that somebody else is going to see and probably repin. It is truly amazing. What you'll find is gorgeous pictures, great quotes. People repin those a lot. When they start repinning those, then they come to your board. So you always have new content if you do that. and you have a new way of getting people to your boards to repin other stuff of your boards.
Okay, that's very informative. I appreciate you telling us how to do that. Do you recommend, in terms of podcasting, do you recommend your podcast and YouTube mentions follow a sort of circulation strategy around the various media sites, social media sites?
Sure, you know me, I'm a big believer that the big four I will always push, and YouTube is not necessarily one of those because that's a whole, though important, a whole different strategy. And but Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Pinterest, you can put your videos on there. Podcasting is a little different, again, unless you have a picture associated with that. But there are some people that are doing podcast blogs now. So I can pin the picture and they've got the picture and you go to it and you hit the, start, and it's their little, may not be a podcast, but it's just their advice on whatever they're talking about. Yes, you can repin those as long as there's a picture. It has to be a JPEG or a PNG, but that allows you to share on multiple sources. And even a podcast can be done on YouTube and without spending a lot of money, and especially on video can be very expensive. So you can actually go to PowerPoint and make some great slides, put some JPEGs in, or what you're talking about, whether it's your coaching business or your brand or whatever, and you can put your podcast to it, and then you can upload it on YouTube as a video. You've got to change the formatting from an MP3 to a movie, but you can do that pretty easily anymore with Macs and I'm sure PCs. I'm a Mac person, so I know how to do that easily. Um, and so now you've gotten a video with, great information on a couple of PowerPoint slides. You haven't spent a lot of money on video, and yet you're up and operating and on another platform, and then you can pin that other places or put it on other forms of social media. I'm all about saving money. You'll find that out too for your business.
Yeah, I like that about you. Well, we're at top of the hour, so I'm going to have to cut us off, darn it. I think we could have had a few more questions, but could you move us to the last slide and I'll make sure
Sure.
that people know that you should come back April 1st for LinkedIn's must-dos, and she'll tell us some really great information on LinkedIn. Also, please know that every week, Tuesday Central, we do have webinars, and we are having a new person join us, Kent Stroman, who's very good in the world of fundraising, and he'll be joining us as a monthly speaker as well. And then we also have Emily Shoup, who talks about how to really build the culture that you want inside your company. So take a look at businessperformanceusa.org. Come back and visit us. Join us and register for our webinar series. And we look forward to hosting you back next week. I'm Cynthia Stewart, owner of Evermore Services, and I'm your partner in building tomorrow's businesses today. Kenna, you've been spectacular. We love hearing from you on and all you are the savvy socialista. You are my go-to gal when it comes to this. Thanks so much for your wonderful insights in how to really use these to better your businesses and to get better your life and your push your dreams out there. We appreciate everyone that joined us today. Come back and see us next week. Go out and make it a great day. Bye bye, everyone.